Welcome to Lion War, brave stories. And listen closely, because this story is not just something you hear, it is something you feel. She was raised by struggle, shaped by hardship, and driven by a hope she could not explain. If you have ever survived more than you were meant to, this story is for you. She was born into noise that never sounded like laughter, and into rooms where hope learned to whisper early. And if you are listening now, stay close. Because this is not a story that begins with strength, it begins with survival, and that matters. The house she grew up in was small, but the weight inside it was heavy, and every morning she woke before the sun, not because she wanted to, but because struggle does not wait for permission in that place. Childhood did not feel soft, it felt sharp, like learning too soon. How silence can protect you, and how dreams must be folded carefully so they do not break. Her mother carried exhaustion like a second skin, and her father carried absence even when he was present, and between them stood a girl watching, learning, absorbing the unspoken rules of endurance. In America, we talk about opportunity as if it arrives equally, but she learned early that opportunity often knocks quieter in certain neighborhoods, and sometimes it does not knock at all. She watched her mother count dollars at the kitchen table late at night, fingers moving slowly as if the numbers might change if treated gently. And she watched bills pile higher than promises, and she learned that hope is not a feeling. It is a decision made daily, even when nothing improves. School was her escape, but also her mirror, because she saw quickly how different her life looked next to others, and how teachers praised potential without seeing pressure, and how classmates complained about things she would have considered luxury. She learned to smile without revealing too much, because pity is another kind of weight, and she learned to perform normalcy because blending in felt safer than being seen. Still, something inside her refused to shrink, and that something did not have a name yet, but it had a pulse. Every day she walked past boarded windows and broken sidewalks, imagining another life, not because she hated where she came from, but because she believed where you start should not decide where you end. Nights were loud with arguments and quiet with worry, and she learned to do homework by dim light and fall asleep too. Uncertainty, and wake up, ready to try again. That repetition built her not gently but thoroughly, because resilience is not forged in comfort, it is shaped in repetition of showing up when quitting would be easier. There were moments she almost gave up, moments when teachers underestimated her, moments when peers dismissed her, moments when her own doubts spoke loudest, but she kept moving because motion felt like resistance and stillness felt like surrender. She took jobs early, balancing school and responsibility, learning the language of exhaustion before learning the language of rest. And she learned how to hold herself together in public while breaking privately. And if you've ever done that, you know how heavy it is. The world did not applaud her effort. It barely noticed, but unseen effort still counts, and it was building something inside her quietly, steadily. When she graduated, it was not celebrated with ease. It was marked by relief and fear, because survival teaches you that every milestone brings new risk. She stepped into adulthood without a safety net and without instructions, and she failed, sometimes hard, sometimes publicly, and each failure threatened to confirm what the world had hinted, that struggle was her destiny. But hope is stubborn, and it does not leave easily. And she began again, each time choosing progress over pride and learning over shame. She found mentors in unexpected places and strength in unexpected moments, and she learned that asking for help is not weakness, but strategy. Her path was not straight, and it was not fast, but it was hers, and every step forward felt earned because it was she carried her past. With her not as a burden, but as proof that she could survive pressure, and that survival slowly transformed into vision. She began to dream bigger, not because life became easier, but because she became stronger, and those dreams scared her because they asked her to believe she deserved more, and that belief was the hardest part. If you are listening now and recognizing pieces of yourself in her, know this: you are not behind, you are becoming. And this is only the beginning, because the struggle that raised her was about to collide with the hope that would drive her, and what comes next will test everything she has built and reveal everything she is becoming. The moment she left home, she thought the hardest part was over, but survival does not release you just because you change locations, and if you are still listening, understand this: the second chapter of becoming is often lonelier than the first. She arrived in a new city, carrying 2 bags and a lifetime of caution, and the streets felt wider, but the distance inside her felt even larger, because no one there knew her story, and no one was waiting to catch her. She felt opportunity looked bright from a distance, but up close, it demanded confidence she had not been taught how to show, and she learned quickly that potential means little without access. She worked long hours at jobs that drained her body while her dreams waited patiently, and she learned how to stretch minutes into possibilities, and how to rest standing up, and how to keep hope alive without evidence. College Halls and office corridors were filled with people who spoke easily about backup plans and safety nets, and she nodded along, hiding the fact that failure for her meant falling all the way through. Sleep came in fragments, and anxiety filled the rest, but she kept going, because turning back felt heavier than moving forward. She was underestimated often and sometimes ignored entirely, and each dismissal threatened to reopen old wounds, but instead it sharpened her focus because she realized something important. No one was coming to save her, and that truth, while frightening, was also freeing. She began to choose herself in small, quiet ways, applying anyway, speaking up anyway, trying again anyway. Progress came slowly and unevenly, and setbacks hit harder because there was no cushion to soften the fall, but she learned how to get back up without applause and how to celebrate survival as success when nothing else felt reachable. There were moments when loneliness pressed so tightly she could feel it in her chest, moments when the city felt indifferent and the future felt abstract, and she wondered if hope had misled her. But then there were flashes, moments of connection, moments of competence, moments when she saw herself reflected differently, stronger, more capable, and those moments became anchors. She learned new skills and unlearned old fears, and she stopped apologizing for taking up space and started recognizing her voice as something worth hearing. The past did not disappear, but it stopped defining the edges of her future, and she began to see that struggle had given her something rare, endurance paired with empathy. She noticed injustice more clearly now, and she noticed resilience in others, and something shifted from survival toward purpose. The world still pushed back, still demanded more than it gave, but she no longer moved blindly through it, she moved intentionally, and that intention built momentum slowly. Doors opened, not wide, but enough. And she stepped through cautiously, learning that growth often feels like risk, and confidence is built after action, not before. If you are listening now and wondering how long hope lasts, know this: it lasts as long as you keep choosing forward, even when the path feels uncertain, because what she was becoming could no longer be contained by the life that tried to limit her, and the collision between struggle and hope was just beginning to reveal its power. The first real test of who she was becoming arrived without warning, and it did not ask if she was ready, because life rarely does. And if you are still listening, understand this: growth is not proven in comfort, it is proven when everything is at risk. She was offered a chance that looked like progress on the surface, but carried weight beneath it. Responsibility, exposure, expectation, and fear intertwined, and saying yes meant stepping into rooms where doubt waited quietly for her to falter. She felt the old voice return, the one shaped by scarcity, telling her she was unqualified, replaceable, one mistake away from losing everything. But this time, she recognized it not as truth, but as memory. She said yes anyway, and that decision changed the direction of her life. The work was demanding and the stakes were real, and for the first time her effort was visible, which made every success brighter and every failure heavier. She worked harder than anyone around her, not to prove worth, but to protect it, and exhaustion followed closely behind. Success brought new pressures and new comparisons, and she realized that advancement does not erase insecurity. It simply gives it a new stage. There were days she felt like an imposter, and nights she replayed conversations wondering if she had revealed too much of where she came from. But resilience is adaptive, and she learned to prepare thoroughly and speak with clarity and trust. The instincts shaped by years of navigating uncertainty, she found allies, not many, but enough people who saw her work and respected her integrity, and those connections mattered because progress is rarely solitary. The environment was competitive and mistakes were remembered longer than effort, and still she persisted because she had already survived worse than judgment. She learned how to set boundaries and how to advocate for herself and how to stay grounded when recognition arrived unevenly, and these skills were not taught, they were earned. The past continued to surface in moments of stress, but it no longer controlled her reactions. She could feel fear without obeying it. She began mentoring others, quietly offering guidance she once needed, and in doing so she realized how far she had come. Her story no longer felt like something to hide, it felt like a source of credibility. The world tested her resolve again when circumstances shifted, when budgets tightened and security wavered and familiar instability threatened to return, but she did not panic. She assessed, she adapted. She moved with intention because struggle had trained her to remain steady in uncertainty. If you are listening now and wondering when strength becomes visible, it becomes visible when you stop shrinking and start standing, even when your voice shakes. Because this chapter was not about arrival, it was about transformation, and the woman shaped by hardship was now learning how to lead with hope, and that hope was becoming something powerful enough to challenge the limits placed on her life. Just when she believed she had found her footing, the ground shifted again, because progress does not move in straight lines, and if you are still listening, know this: the most important lessons often arrive disguised as loss.
The opportunity she worked for changed suddenly, leadership turned over priorities, shifted, and the security she thought she had built thinned overnight.
An old fear tried to rush back in, but it no longer had the same power. She felt the disappointment deeply because hope makes loss sharper, but she did not collapse. She paused, and in that pause, she chose reflection over reaction. She asked herself what she truly wanted beyond survival, beyond proving herself, beyond simply making it through. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life aligned with purpose, not just persistence. That question unsettled her because it required honesty and courage and patience. All at once, she recognized how often she had been chasing stability as if it were the finish line, when in truth it was only the foundation. She began planning deliberately, not out of panic, but out of clarity, building skills, saving where she could, seeking guidance, and mapping options. Because strategy is what turns hope into action.
The world still demanded effort and compromise, but now she moved with awareness of her value and limits. She
turned down paths that would have drained her, even if they looked impressive, and chose ones that allowed growth without erasure. That choice was not easy because scarcity teaches you to grab what you can, but abundance begins with discernment. During this time, she faced doubt from others in moments of isolation as she stepped away from expectations that no longer fit, but she stayed steady, trusting the internal compass shaped by years of survival and reflection. She learned to rest without guilt and to recognize rest as preparation, not weakness. And that shift changed everything. Her confidence deepened, not because she felt invincible, but because she knew she could recover. She embraced uncertainty as part of evolution rather than a threat, and she discovered that hope grows strongest when it is guided by intention. If you are listening now and standing at a crossroads, understand this: choosing yourself is not abandonment. It is alignment, and the woman raised by struggle was no longer driven only by escape. She was driven by purpose, and that purpose was preparing her for the final stretch where everything she had endured would converge into something lasting and transformative. She did not arrive at the future she once imagined. She arrived at something stronger, and if you are still listening, understand this: the destination was never the point. The becoming was years after leaving the life that shaped her. She stood in a place that felt earned, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. She built a career rooted in purpose, choosing work that reflected her values and rejecting roles that required silence or shrinking. She learned that success without alignment is another form of struggle, and she refused to repeat old patterns. Her confidence no longer came from proving herself to others. It came from knowing who she was when no one was watching. The memories of hardship never vanished, but they softened, transforming into guidance rather than weight. She used her voice, now not loudly, but clearly, advocating, mentoring, leading with empathy earned through lived experience. She saw herself in others who were still surviving, and she offered them what she once needed: presence, perspective, belief. Her life was not free of challenges, but she met them differently. Grounded, steady, hopeful, she understood now that hope is not naive, it is disciplined. It is the decision to keep moving with intention, even when outcomes are uncertain. And if you are listening to this at a moment when your life feels heavy, when progress feels slow, when your story feels unseen, remember this: she was raised by struggle, but driven by hope, and that hope did not rescue her. It revealed her strength. This is the truth that carries forward, that the past does not own you. Endurance can become vision, and survival can become leadership. And here is the hook you need to carry with you: if she could rise from silence into purpose, so can you. And your story is not over. It is waiting for your next brave step. Raised by struggle, driven by hope, is a powerful, cinematic, true life inspired story about a brave woman who rises from hardship and builds a life rooted in purpose, resilience, and courage. This emotional narration is designed to inspire women facing adversity and anyone who believes in personal growth, healing, and transformation. Perfect for audiences who love motivational stories, real-life inspiration, and cinematic storytelling. If you are searching for hope, strength, and proof that your past does not define your future, this story is for you.